Welcome back to the Utopia Show, your one stop podcast for all the things related to effective study techniques, productivity, and self help and self improvement tips and mastering the art of learning. I am your host Faria, and today we are diving into part 2 of our Ultimate Study Guide series. And this episode is all about active recall study methods, a powerful technique that has been proven to enhance memory retention and improve understanding of material. If you missed part 1, make sure to go back and give it a listen after this episode. Now, let's get started. Active recall is often known as one of the most effective study strategies. But what exactly it is and how can we incorporate it into your study routine? So, by the end of this episode, you'll have a comprehensive understanding of active recall along with the practical tips of how to use it to boost your academic performance. So, grab a notebook, settle in, and let's break it down. What is active recall? Active recall at its core involves actively stimulating your memory during the learning process. Unlike passive review methods such as rereading notes or highlighting text, active recall forces you to retrieve information from memory to strengthening your ability to recall it later. So the technique relies on the testing effect, which demonstrates that the act of recalling information helps to cement it into your long term memory. So the science behind active recall is, let's start with some science. So when you engage in active recall, you are essentially training your brain to access and retrieve information. So this process strengthens the neural pathways associated with the knowledge you're trying to remember. Studies have shown that testing yourself on material is far more effective than simply reviewing it. This is because the effort involved in recalling information makes your brain work harder, reinforcing the learning. So, there's a research which is published which has demonstrated that students who use active recall perform better on tests than those who use passive review techniques. In one study, students who were quizzed on material retained about 50% more information a week later compared to those who only reviewed their notes. So, this significant difference underscores the importance of incorporating active recall into your study routine. How to implement active recall? Now that we have understood what active recall is all about and why it's effective, let's talk about how to implement it. Here are several strategies to help you incorporate active recall into your study sessions. Number one is self quizzing. Self quizzing is one of the most straightforward methods of active recall. After studying a topic, put away your notes and try to write down everything you remember. This could be in the form of a list, an essay, or even a mind map. Now, the key is to force yourself to retrieve the information without looking at your materials. For example, if you are studying biology after reviewing a chapter on respiration, close your book and write down the stages of glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain from memory. Then check your work against your notes and see where the gaps are. Focus your next study session on those areas. Number two is flashcards. Flashcards are a classic tool for active recall. Write a question on one side of the card and the answer on the other. As you go through the flashcards, try to answer the question before flipping the card to check your answer. Apps like Anki or Quizlet can help automate this process and introduce spaced repetition, another powerful learning technique. When using flashcards, make sure to phrase the question in a way that requires more than just rote memorization. For instance, instead of writing "What is the capital of France?" you could write "Explain why Paris is considered the cultural and political hub of France." This encourages deeper understanding and better retention. Number three is practice tests. So, creating practice tests is another effective method of active recall. Gather all the key topics you need to learn and create a test for yourself. Then take the test under exam conditions. No notebooks, no books, and within a set time limit. So, this not only helps you with recall but also prepares you for the actual test environment. After taking the practice test, review your answers and identify areas where you struggled. Use this insight to guide your next study session, focusing on the topics that need more attention. You can find a practice test online or you can create your own test based on your study materials. Number four is teaching others. Teaching is a powerful method of active recall. So, when you teach someone else, you have to retrieve the information from your memory and explain it in your own words, which reinforces your understanding. Find a study partner or even just an imaginary audience and explain the concepts you are learning. For example, if you're studying history, pretend you're giving a lecture on the causes and consequences of World War II. Try to be as detailed as possible and don't be afraid to look up for additional information to ensure your explanations are accurate. The act of teaching forces you to organize your knowledge and identify any gaps. Then we have combining active recall with other techniques. While I think active recall is highly effective on its own, combining it with other study techniques can enhance your learning even further. So, here are a few complementary strategies. Number one is spaced repetition. Spaced repetition involves reviewing material at increasing intervals over time. So, this technique takes advantage of the spacing effect, which shows that information is better retained when it is studied repeatedly over a longer period. Now, combining active recall with spaced repetition ensures that you revisit and reinforce information at optimal times. For instance, after your initial study sessions using active recall, review the material the next day, then 3 days later, then a week later, and so on. Apps like Anki or even Quizlet are specially designed to help you implement spaced repetition in your study routine. Second is interleaving. Interleaving involves mixing different topics or subjects during a study session. So, this approach can enhance learning by forcing your brain to constantly switch between topics, which helps improve problem solving skills and the ability to transfer knowledge to new situations. When combined with active recall, interleaving can make your study sessions more dynamic and effective. Now, instead of studying one subject for an extended period, break your study time into blocks and switch between different subjects or topics. For example, spend 30 minutes on math, or maybe 40 to 50 minutes on math, followed by 30 minutes on history, then 30 to 40 minutes in science. So, this constant switching challenges your brain and improve overall retention. Third is elaborative interrogation. So, elaborate interrogation involves asking yourself why a fact is true and then answering that question. So, this technique encourages deeper understanding and helps integrate new information with existing knowledge. So, when you combine this with active recall, you not only retrieve information but also deepen your comprehension. For example, if you are studying chemistry, and learning about the periodic table, ask yourself why certain elements have similar properties, then recall the answer from memory, which forces you to think critically and understand the underlying principles. Now, the last one is practical tips for effective active recall. Now that we have covered the basics and complementary techniques, Let's dive into some practical tips to help you get the most out of active recall. Number one is start small. So, if you are new to active recall, start with small, manageable chunks of information. Trying to recall too much at once can be overwhelming and counterproductive. Begin with a few key concepts or a single chapter of your textbooks and gradually increase the amount of material as you become more comfortable with the technique. Number two is stay consistent. Consistency is key when it comes to active recall. Make it a regular part of your study routine rather than something you do occasionally. Set aside specific times in your schedule for active recall sessions and stick to them. Over time, you will find that your ability to recall information improves significantly. Third, it is use a variety of formats. Variety can keep your study sessions engaging and prevent burnout. Use different formats, for example, active recall, such as written summaries, verbal explanation, or drawing diagrams from memory. This not only makes studying more interesting, but also helps reinforce your learning in multiple ways. Number four is track your progress. Keep track of your progress to see how much you are improving. Use a notebook or a digital tool to record the topics you have studied and the results of your self quizzes and practice tests. Seeing your progress can be motivating and help you identify areas where you need to focus more, where you need to focus more and put a lot of effort. And number five is staying positive. Active recall can be challenging, especially at first. It's normal to struggle and forget things, but don't get discouraged. Remember that every effort you make to recall information is strengthening your memory and improving your understanding. Stay positive and keep practicing, and you will see improvement over time. Now, common challenges and how to overcome them. Like any study technique, active recall comes with its own set of challenges. So, here are some obstacles you might encounter and tips on how to overcome them. Number one is difficulty in retrieving information. So, one of the main challenges of active recall is difficulty in retrieving information. Especially when you first start using the technique, it can be frustrating when you can't remember something you have studied. But this is a normal part of the learning process. The key is to keep practicing. Each attempt at recalling information, even if unsuccessful, strengthens your memory. Number two is feeling overwhelmed. Active recall can be mentally taxing, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed if you try to do too much at once. To avoid burnout, break your study sessions into manageable chunks and take regular breaks. Use techniques like the Pomodoro technique, which involves studying for 25 minutes and then taking a 5-minute break. Number three is lack of immediate results. Unlike some passive study methods, the benefit of active recall may not be immediately apparent. It's important to be patient and trust the process. Over time, you will notice that your ability to recall information improves and your performance on tests and exams will reflect this. Now, number four is boredom and monotony. Repetitive use of any study technique can lead to boredom and monotony. To keep things interesting, vary the methods and materials you use for active recall. Mix up self quizzing with flashcards, practice tests, and teach others. Incorporating different subjects and formats can also help maintain your interest and motivation. Now, real life success stories. To inspire you, let's look at a few real life success stories of individuals who have used active recall to achieve academic excellence. Number one is medical students. Medical students often have to memorize vast amounts of information from anatomy to pharmacology. Many top performing medical students swear by active recall combined with spaced repetition to master their coursework. By consistently testing themselves on medical concepts and revisiting them at regular intervals, they are able to retain information more effectively and perform better on exams like the USMLE or even the Indian medical exam called NEET. Number two is language learners. Language learners also benefit greatly from active recall. By regularly quizzing themselves on vocabulary and grammar rules, they reinforce their learning and improve their fluency. For example, language learners might use flashcards to recall vocabulary words and practice forming sentences, which help them to internalize the language and use it more naturally. And the third is high school students. So, high school students preparing for standardized tests like the SAT or ACT have also found success with active recall by creating practice tests and quizzing themselves on key concepts. They can identify their weakness and focus their study efforts more effectively. This targeted approach leads to higher scores and a better understanding of the material. Now, case study, which is medical students and active recall. Medical students often face an overwhelming amount of material to learn and retain, from detailed anatomy to complex biochemical pathways. So the stakes are high, and traditional study methods may not be sufficient to master the required knowledge. So let's explore a case study of a medical student who successfully implemented active recall to excel in their studies. Background: um, Sarva is a second year medical student struggling to keep up with her coursework. Despite spending long hours studying, she finds that she quickly forgets the information and then performs poorly on tests. Frustrated and stressed, Sarah decides to overhaul her strategies and incorporate active recall into her routine. So implementation. So what could she implement in her study routine? So self-quizzing. She could create detailed self-quizzes for each topic she studies. For her anatomy course, she writes down questions about the structure and functions of different organs and systems. After each study session, she puts away her notes and tries to answer the questions from memory. Second is flashcards. She also creates digital flashcards using an app like Anki. Using flashcards, including a question on one side and the answer on the other, will help her a lot. She sets up a spaced repetition schedule to review her flashcards regularly, ensuring that she revisits the material at optimal intervals. Number three, practice test. To prepare for exams, Sarah creates practice tests that mimic the format and difficulty of her actual exam. She takes these tests under timed condition and without any reference materials. After completing each test, she reviews her answer to identify areas where she needs further study. Number four is teaching others. She forms a study group with her classmates and then they take turns teaching each other different topics, explaining complex concepts to her peer forces her to retrieve information from memory and solidify her understanding. Results. So, after several weeks of consistent active recall practice, she begins to notice significant improvements. Her ability to recall information during tests improves dramatically, and her test scores reflects this progress. She finds that she spends less time rereading and more time actively engaging with the material, leading to more efficient study sessions. Conclusion: by implementing active recall, she transforms her study routine and achieves her academic success. So her experience highlighting the effectiveness of active recalls for mastering complex subject and retaining large volumes of information helps us to know that this method of active recall is very important to to understand the entire bit of material. Now next is advanced active recall techniques. Now for those who are already familiar with basic active recalls, let's explore some advanced techniques to take your learning to the next level. Peer teaching and group study. Peer teaching involves explaining concepts to a study partners or a group. This method not only reinforces your understanding but also provides immediate feedback and clarification. In a group study session, take turns teaching each other different topics. This collaborative approach can reveal different perspectives and deepen your comprehension. Number two is Socratic questioning. Socratic questioning involves asking and answering questions to stimulate critical thinking and draw out underlying assumptions. When studying, ask yourself a series of probing questions about the material. For example, if you are studying a historical event, ask why it happened, what the consequences were, and how it relates to other events. This method helps you engage deeply with the content and enhances your ability to recall and apply the information. Number three is visual and spatial techniques. Incorporate visual and spatial memory techniques to enhance active recall. Mind maps, diagrams, charts can help you organize and visualize information. When trying to recall material, recreate these visual aids from memory. The process of drawing and visualizing the information strengthens your memory and helps you to see connections between different concepts. Number four is scenario based learning. Create real life scenarios or case studies related to the material you are studying. For example, if you are learning about business principles, imagine you are running a company and apply the concepts to make decisions. Scenario based learning makes the material more relevant and memorable, enhancing your ability to recall and apply the knowledge in practical situations. Number five is metacognitive strategies. Metacognition involves thinking about your thinking. Reflect on your learning process and assess your understanding of the material. Ask yourself what you know, what you don't know, and how you can improve. So use this self awareness to adjust your study strategies and focus on areas that need improvement. Metacognitive strategies help you become a more effective and efficient learner, overcoming mental blocks and enhancing focus. Now, active recall requires mental effort and focus, and it's common to encounter mental blocks during your study sessions. Here are some tips to overcome these challenges and enhance your focus. Number one is mindfulness and meditation. So, practicing mindfulness and meditation can help you improve your focus and reduce stress. Spend a few minutes before your study sessions practicing deep breathing or meditation. This helps calm your mind and prepares you for intense mental activity. Number two is breaks and downtime. Taking regular breaks during study sessions is crucial for maintaining focus and preventing burnout. Use techniques like the Pomodoro technique to structure your study time. Study for 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute break. During the during the break, do something relaxing and unrelated to your studies, like stretching or going for a short walk. Number three, healthy lifestyle. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle supports cognitive function and enhances your ability to focus. Ensure you are getting enough sleep, eating a balanced diet, and staying hydrated. Regular physical exercise also boosts brain health and improves concentration. Number four is creating a study environment. Your study environment plays a significant role in your ability to focus. Find a quiet, comfortable place to study with minimal distractions. Keep your study area organized and free from clutter. Have a designated study space signals, that signals your brain that it's time to focus and learn. Number five is goal setting. Set clear, achievable goals for each study sessions. Having specific objectives helps you to stay focused and motivated. Break down larger tasks into smaller, manageable steps and track your progress. Celebrate small victories along the way to maintain your motivation. Now, the role of technology in active recall. In today's digital age, technology offers numerous tools and resources to support active recall. So let's explore some ways you can leverage technology to enhance your study sessions. Number one is flashcards app. Apps like Anki and Quizlet are excellent tools for creating and using digital flashcards. So these apps often include features like spaced repetition, which helps optimize your review schedule. You can also find pre-made flashcard sets on various topics, saving you time and effort. Number two is online quizzes and practice tests. Many educational websites offer online quizzes and practice tests on a wide range of subjects. Websites like Khan Academy, Coursera, edX, they all provide interactive quizzes that allows you to test your knowledge and receive immediate feedback. So these resources are valuable for practicing active recall and accessing your understanding. Assessing your understanding. Number three is educational videos and tutorials. Platforms like YouTube and Khan Academy offer educational videos and tutorials on virtually on any subject. Watching these videos can reinforce your understanding and provide different perspectives on the material. After watching, challenge yourself to recall and explain the key points from memory. Number four is note taking apps. Note taking apps like Evernote, OneNote, and Notion allow you to organize your notes digitally. These apps often include features like tagging, search, and linking, making it easier to review and recall information. You can also use these apps to create digital mind maps and diagrams. Number five is study communities and forums. Online study communities and forums such as on Reddit's study tips or Discord study groups provide a platform to connect with other learners. Engaging in discussions, asking questions, and explaining concepts to others can reinforce your understanding and enhance active recall. Next up, we have incorporating active recall into our daily routine. Active recall doesn't have to be limited to formal study sessions. You can incorporate it into your daily life to reinforce learning and improve memory retention. Number one is daily reviews. Spend a few minutes each day reviewing what you have learned. At the end of the day, write down or mentally recall key points from your study sessions. This daily review helps reinforce your memory and ensures that information stays fresh. Number two is learning on the go. Take advantage of downtime during your day to practice active recall. For example, while computing, mentally quiz yourself on recently studied material. Use flashcards on your phone to review key concepts during short break or whenever you get those break periods. in between of your classes. Number three, engaging in discussions. Discuss what you're learning with your friends, family, or colleagues. It can reinforce your understanding. So, share interesting facts or explain complex concepts in casual conversations. Teaching others helps you to solidify your knowledge and identify areas that need further review. Number four is applying knowledge. So find opportunities to apply where you are learning whatever you are learning in real life situation. For example, if you're studying a foreign language, practice speaking it during everyday interactions. Or maybe you could join some sort of there are so many apps I have known about it through which you can interact with people who speak different languages, of which is more or less related to learning foreign language learning apps. So if you're learning about nutrition, apply the concepts to plan your meals. If you are very interested in writing and literature, maybe you could start a vlog, or maybe you could get an internship. Applying knowledge and practical concepts enhances retention and understanding. Now, if you're really good at computer science, maybe you could apply to some internships in some companies, and this will help you to apply whatever skills and knowledge you have in real life situation, and you could also have make a commercial impact out of it. Number 5 is keeping a learning journal. So maintain a learning journal where you regularly write down what you have learned, questions you have, and reflections on your study sessions. For example, every night I try to reflect on what I have personally covered and what I have done, especially during my exam period. Whenever I used to have those long breaks, I used to plan out my week or plan out my day, and every time I go to bed to sleep at night, I review it, and I check it, and I question myself if there's something that I have missed out, or is something that I could incorporate tomorrow. Maybe I could schedule a test, a short practice day next day. Or maybe I could go through the flashcards, or maybe some this concept or that concepts, or some subtopics that I have missed out. So this practice encourages active recall and helps track your progress over time. Reviewing your journal entries can also provide valuable insights and motivation. Why? Because, for example, you have like a 1 week gap before your exam, and at the end of like when there are 1 or 2 days left before your exam, try to review those that learning journal where you actually could look through what you have missed out. If there's some concepts that you feel that you have written that you need to revise once more, maybe you could invest some time to learn those concepts in the next 2 days. It really helps you to get a really good score because you tend to remember it more, and also like keeping a learning journal helps you to track your progress over that period of time till your exams come. Now, embracing the power of active recall. So, as we wrap up this episode, remember that active recall, it is a powerful study technique that can transform your learning process. It helps you not only to remember things for your study sessions, but you could also remember certain concepts that might just be helpful after you have graduated school, college, or university, or grad school, or whatever. It could also help you to teach someone younger than you those things that you have learned, those concepts that you have learned, or those little things that you have learned through active recall. It helps you to helps you to keep the information for a longer period of time. Later, it helps a lot, just not for yourself, but also it provides you a sense of satisfaction to remember things, to remember things and to recall things that you've actually studied back at your school or even at your college or grad school. So, by actively engaging with the study material and now challenging yourself to recall information, active recall strengthens your memory and deepen your understanding. Now, combine active recall with other effective study techniques like spaced repetition and even interleaving to maximize your results. So this active recall has all these study methods, whether it's making those flashcards, mind maps, and stuff like that. You could also combine it with study methods like spaced repetition and also interleaving, just so that when you're practicing interleaving, you study that material in one in a after a week or 2 week or maybe after a day or so, something like that. It helps you, when you incorporate active recall in it, it helps you to maximize your results. Now, talking about spaced repetition, you can make spaced repetition. Sometimes when I personally use spaced repetition while I'm studying, I personally sometimes find it to be a bit boring. So, what I do, I like to incorporate active recall. I can make these effective, flashcards. I could use different color pencils and stuff, and even highlighters to color code my entire mind maps and concept maps and my notes, and then I could use spaced repetition to understand it, to make my study sessions more fruitful, and it helps me to enjoy my study sessions. And I think it's important for you to romanticize your study session by you incorporating these study techniques. Now, start small, stay consistent, and don't be afraid to experiment with different methods and formats. So keep track of your progress and stay positive even when the going gets tough. With time and practice, you will find that active recall becomes a valuable part of your study routine, helping you to achieve your academic goals and beyond. So, you know, active recall, sometimes what active recall is not something that happens all of a sudden. It's not something that you will get immediate results. It has to be started out before, like at least before 2 to 3 weeks or even before a month. When you start, or maybe when your semester at your college or your school, wherever it starts, you should be using this method, just so that by the time your exam season comes, you could apply those methods. By that period of time, you have already all the information stored in your brain. All you need to do is apply those in the sense, put those information out in your exam paper. And I think active recall helps you a lot, not just um you know not just for your exam season, but beyond your exam season, beyond your learning journey. You could apply those active recall not just to study for your exam, but also to learn new skills, to learn about marketing strategies, or to learn about languages. I mean, most of the time those are also courses that you get to learn, but just in general, when you are at school or when you're at college, you don't exactly study much of it, in general. So active recall helps you to incorporate everything in your life, every study related things in your life, and helps you to achieve your academic goals too. So, um thank you for joining me on this journey through active recall study methods. I hope you find this episode informative and inspiring. So if you have any questions, or um, you know, or want to share your own experiences with active recall, feel free to reach out to me on my Instagram, which is at Faria's Utopia. So this has been the Ultimate Study Guide, and I'm your host Faria. So if you have enjoyed this entire episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast platform, which is Spotify. And don't forget to share it with your friends who might benefit from these tips. So until next time, keep studying. Smart, stay curious, and always strive for excellence. Now, stay tuned for more episodes where we continue um, to explore the best strategies to help you succeed. And in my next episodes, I plan to incorporate more of study tips, and I will also I've read some of my books, and I have I've written some of the book reviews. I'll also be recording them too, and on top of that, I'll also be providing you all with with writing skills. As how to write a perfect book review, how to improve your writing skills. On top of that, not only just that, I'll also be reading some of my book reviews that I have written on my favorite books. And until then, happy studying. Thank you very much.